How's my light?
No blue M&Ms.
I mean, Jesus Christ. 3 podcasts later, he's a diva.
Take all the blue M&Ms out.
I recorded that and I'm keeping it. I'm using it for a snippet later. I'm telling you now.
I like it.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Same Business, Different Day podcast. My name is Zeke, and I'm glad to have my co-host Alyssa back with me. How you doing, Alyssa?
I'm doing good, Zeke.
You just had a little surgery.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week.
Yeah.
I had surgery on my thumb, and thumbs are important. You need your thumbs. But I'm learning how to survive without one thumb.
You know what I've been meaning to ask you? I haven't asked you in a while, though. Your reading list. Now, I remember you had a New Year's resolution where you were going to, there were a number of books that you wanted to read by the end of the year.
This year it's 43. I'm supposed to read 43 books this year, and thanks to COVID, I'm almost at my goal. I'm at 37.
Wow.
So I might go above my goal this year, which would be a good thing.
I think you will.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm happy to be joined by 2 guests today. Networking partners, business associates, friends. These guys embody what this podcast is all about. First is one of my favorite business minds and a true visionary. For as ambitious as he is as a businessman, he's equally laid back as a person. I met him when he was running his shop by himself, and I've known him throughout his growth. This man is living the lifestyle many of us want to live. The dream home, the gorgeous family, and the successful business. I want to introduce you all to my friend, Marc Wilson.
Glad to be here, Zeke. Thanks for joining.
I'm happy to have you here, man. Yes. My other guest, an ambitious king. We'll hear a story from him about a man that made it in the corporate world, but made the decision to take the leap and his future into his own hands. I've known him since 2003. And I can't express how proud I am of him as a businessman, a father to 7 children, and just as a man in general. Marc Gallo is also here with us.
Thank you, Zeke.
All right. 2 Marks. This isn't going to be easy. First, I want to say cheers, though. These type of stories aren't as compelling when you're just getting started in business. They're compelling after years and years of hard work. You guys have made it, and now it's time to be here, tell your story, write your book, write your movie, and I just want to say congratulations to you, gentlemen. Cheers.
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 All right.
Drink pause.
Okay.
Ziggy's not drinking.
Ziggy, hoy, hoy, hoy. Yeah.
Rules of the game, guys. We're not going to talk about what you guys do as businessmen just yet. We'll get into that, but we'll let the audience kind of guess that way through. But what we really want to do is start from the beginning. We really want to learn about the tools that got you to the point where you got to this destination, where you got to the business that you're doing. Any of you guys remember your early memories? You remember what you wanted to be when you grow up?
It's funny. I haven't been asked that in a long time. But as a kid, I always knew I wanted to do something that had an impact on other people's lives. So I remember, first of all, I wanted to be rich. I don't know why I wanted to be rich. I remember watching Richie Rich on TV and
Silver spoons.
I'm thinking silver spoons.
Silver spoons. Yeah, you're right. That's right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. But I've kind of looked back at that time. Want to know why I wanted to be rich, and I think it was because there's a lot of different things. And I'm not saying I'm rich today, but I remember that I wanted to be able to build something that was bigger than myself. I think I had that entrepreneurial disease early, and I think I recognized that early on, that I wanted to be in charge of making my own decisions and either surviving or failing because of the decisions that we made. So
You want to be in charge. Sound like a boss talking.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I wanted to be in charge because I wanted to be a boss. I just wanted to. I just felt like I wanted to be the one who made the decisions, either for the good or the bad. Like, all the way through. I didn't want to depend on other people to make that decision for me. So
Yeah. But you, Gallo, you remember?
You know, it's funny. I talk to my kids about this now because they're getting that age to where they're trying to figure out how they want to do it themselves. And you know, I was a computer science major going into college, which
I didn't know that.
Yeah, anybody that knows me is like, I don't know how that would have worked. Right? You know, I mean, I stunk at math. Sounds like a great career, but I liked playing video games at the time when I was 13, 14 years old, and so computer science. But you know, it's funny. I fell into doing what I'm doing, and I can legitimately say the reason I'm still doing this today is because I didn't have a plan B.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an option.
Yeah.
You know,
And sometimes that's the path. Sometimes it happens that way. It was just like, you know, you got to make this work.
Yeah, it's like if you don't have a plan B, you better make plan A work.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that was kind of what drove me.
Yeah.
You know,
Was that stressful?
Oh yeah. I quit my career at least 10 times in my first 7 years. I just happened to rehire myself 11. Which, you know, it's crazy. It's crazy to look back at my history to kind of see the path I took and the different processes that went on in my head. And yeah, it was nuts.
Do you have early mentors? You have anybody who was teaching you, you know, kind of leadership or kind of directing you in any way?
Definitely. I mean, you know, there's early mentors in my life that I took on that I looked at and said, God, this idiot's doing it. I could totally do this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I don't know if that's a positive mentor in a way, from the stance that, like, well,
yeah,
heck, I know I'm smarter than this guy. I know I can work harder than this guy. So I could do this. And then I've had positive, like, emotional mentors and visionaries that have definitely helped, you know, mold the way that I wanted to do this as well. And I think that those people have different impacts, you know, mostly for the good, you know, some for the bad, but you know, I think you have to have the good with the bad. You have to have failures in order to appreciate successes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's huge. I mean, my daughter just got in an accident on Sunday, and I pulled her aside, and she was completely broken apart. And I'm like, this is living.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if you go through life and don't have an accident, you didn't push hard enough.
Yeah.
You know, you need to have this. Take away from this. This is life
Learn
lessons.
from that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
This is a life lesson. This is the most expensive lessons you'll ever learn, but this is how you do it. You know?
Yeah, but don't worry, Dad's got deep pockets.
Yeah. Listen, she's gonna be working her butt off to pay that one off.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now. I will not have to clean my car for a long damn time.
100%.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So no, you know, that's. Yeah, so I definitely had some positive influences. You know, I had some negative influences as well.
Sure.
You know, and I think it's good to take those away, though. It's good to walk away and look and go, that was a dumb idea.
That's important.
You know?
Yeah. As long as you can survive them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But again, if you don't have a plan B, you have to survive.
Right. How about sports? Anything like that? Like, did you guys grew up in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. Like, you play sports?
I did.
Did you learn leadership there? Did you have other mentors, Wilson?
I did. For mentorship, it's kind of interesting. It's funny. I was just I'm in a group called EO, and we had our forum meeting yesterday, and funny you asked that. One of our exercises, we had to come up with a list of mentors or people who've had influences over your life. So it's kind of interesting that you asked that.
Okay.
The very next day, because I had to think about this yesterday. And to answer your question about sports, I played football. I was a very average football player, although the guy sitting next to me, we actually went to high school together. Marc Gallo and I did, and he was a younger classman, bigger than I was for sure. So I had some fun with Mark in the locker room, a little bit of friendly hazing.
You needed help. You needed help.
Yeah, right. A little friendly hazing.
It wasn't all just on you. You needed help.
Yeah. But back to the mentorship, you know, what's interesting is when I was younger in elementary school, somebody told me I had a learning disability.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, as a kid, what that did to me is it made me super insecure. Like there was moments of the time when we were, you know, the kids would like know that I was being pulled out of this class to go to a different class, and it, you know, made me feel like a dumb kid.
Embarrassment.
I was embarrassed, right? There was this teacher. Her name was Dennis Poppy, and she was one of the first teachers that kind of believed in my ability. And she kind of, I think early on as a kid, I think I learned to put myself around people that believed in my ability to overcome some of that stuff. And so what was cool about her is that she saw something in me, had me get real focused, and kind of helped me become really good in math. And I ended up becoming a tutor and all these other things. But that was because the first person that, like, other than my parents, who said, "Hey, he just thinks differently. There's nothing wrong with him, just something different." And so, so mentors are important. I think, I had professors in college that way too, as well. And I've had great bosses that have been mentors. I've had other people in my profession who have kind of guided me along the way. So I think mentorship's important. I think surrounding yourself around people who lift you up.
Yeah, they believe in you. That's
and
huge.
Believe in you. It's huge, right? Like
it's huge.
And I always tell people, like, you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. And so if you're hanging out with people that are bringing you down, that's a waste of time. So, and I kind of learned that early on.
Is that why we don't hang out anymore?
That's not true. It's not true. We still hang out, but yeah. No. So mentorship's critical.
What was your first job?
First job was in my uncle's cosmetic store in La Mesa, California, out in East County of San Diego.
That's why you're still good with the contour.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I had to shake nail polishes as they sat there. That was my first job. I think I was, 10 years old or 11 years old, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that early?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you were getting work experience at a young age.
Early.
That's important.
Early. Yeah. There, and then I was 15 and a half. I worked at Soup Plantation. Sadly, just shut down,
Just
right?
closed down.
Yeah, because of COVID. Nobody believes in buffet-style restaurants. But, yeah, so 15 and a half years old. I was on the football team, but I'd race over to Soup Plantation and just, I started working early. Just
good.
Whatever I could do. Like, I don't know what, just always trying to hustle.
And a good work ethic, though, right? I mean, you showed up.
It's built.
Showed
up
on time.
Never late.
Yeah.
No.
You remember your first job, Gallo?
Yeah. So I was like 12 or 13, I want to say, and I wanted to buy a computer.
Okay.
So I had convinced my parents that, hey, these new computers are coming out. These things are super cool. And I remember getting in the car with my stepfather at the time. I jumped in the car and we're buckling the seatbelts, and he's like, "Did you bring a checkbook?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Well,
wait a minute. He got you all the way in the car
yeah,
first?
we're in the car. We're ready to back out." He's like, "You brought a checkbook?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, you want to go to your computer?" I'm like, "Yeah." "I thought you were going to buy one." He goes, "I don't need a computer." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you're going to buy me one." He goes, "Why would I buy you a computer? I don't need one." And I'm like, "Well, how am I supposed to get a computer?" He goes, "You got a lot of neighbors and they have a lot of weeds." And, and I remember just going out and I pulled weeds. And then I want to say that summer, I probably made $500 just pulling weeds with neighbors, which, back then, this is back before, before the wheel was invented.
No, the wheel's always been.
And
Trump says the wheel and the wall.
Yeah, the wheel and the wall. Yeah, so it and then I had a bunch of saved up bearer bonds and that kind of stuff, and I cashed all that in. And I think I was probably $300 short or something like that, and then they kicked in.
Yeah.
And the stepfather was like, "So listen, I own $300 of this machine, so whenever I want you to turn it off, you're turning it off." And I'm like,
Ooh, wow.
I don't like that idea either.
Yeah.
Did you babysit?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I totally babysat. I mean, I was a terrible babysitter.
Oh, it was
I'm
the
still,
worst.
I to this day, I'm still a terrible babysitter. My kids are like, "Man, you suck."
I like that first job because it kind of reminds me of Alyssa. She had motivation, right? You were trying to buy a car.
Oh, yeah.
And so what was your first job?
Yeah, same deal with the parents of like, "Oh, I want a car." All right, well then how are you going to pay for it?
Yeah.
So I grew up on a ranch, and my first job was chopping firewood and lifting it into a truck and hauling it to where it needed to go. And you can make a lot of money off a cord of firewood.
100%, yeah.
So I did it 4 or 5 times, and I could afford a cheap car, and that's what I did. But same work ethic. Like,
Yeah.
you want a car? Okay, go buy one.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
Life
That's
isn't
super
gonna
awesome.
Life isn't going to give it to you.
no.
Unless you're in my house. Then we
Yeah, I'd come back as my kids.
Yeah, I know. My kids have it set up. But they're such better students than I am.
Yeah.
Mine are, at least.
Same with mine are too. Mine are
Yeah,
too.
so it's like, well, all right, that's your job.
Sales. You remind me of like the salespeople that I kind of grew up with, Gallo.
Yeah.
Like when I was in the Bay Area, and when I first started working for Singular Wireless, like I went from managing one location to running 43 locations, right?
Yeah.
And when I first started working with them, it was just trenches, right?
Yeah.
It was just during the holiday season, and I'm sitting in this small kiosk, this little booth in the middle of the mall, and just flagging people down. That was when you could still greet people. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm just flagging people down, and they're like, you can make some good money for your Christmas presents. And you remind me of the kind of guys that I was in the trenches with, where it's just like, you just got to use your voice.
Yeah.
You got to get them to come talk to you, spend a couple minutes with you. If they don't leave with the phone, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Did you have where did sales come from when it, for you?
It's funny. I remember I was working at Data Quick Axiom at the time, doing customer service. So at the end of the day, like Data Quick at the time, they are the ones that pulled all the assessors' information, the county assessors' information, to be able to put together cold call lists and lists for everybody else, right? So they sold that to all these other groups. And so by the time they got to Data Quick, we were actually the ones that were producing the lists, right? Mm-hmm. So by the time they got there, people were pretty heated. They're pretty heated. And I grew up in a household that my stepfather definitely was very vocal at his displeasure at things. So I was used to getting, chewed into a bit. And I'd have these customers call and just, yell and scream and everything else. And I was able to shut it off. I didn't care. I just kind of like, whatever. Hey, do you want your name off the list or not? Yeah. So I had gotten a letter. It was a form letter that was sent to me. And it looked at it as like, hey, I was referred to you for this sales. And it was basically a sales letter, right? But it was just a form letter that came out to me, but it's personalized to me. And I totally thought it was somebody that I had dealt with in there. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. And I was 22 years old. And I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I had shown my friend Chris this letter. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to go after this. He goes, oh, yeah, I got that last week. And I'm like,
is that Chris Rand?
Yeah. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, this is a sales job. And I'm like, ugh. He goes, well, if you want to get into a sales job, let's talk.
Okay.
And then lo and behold, 23 years later, I'm still in it. But, I just thought it was funny that, it was a form letter. I wish I would have kept that form letter because that form letter completely changed my life.
It changed it.
It completely changed my life. Yeah, it completely changed my life because I got that. Because all of a sudden I started thinking outside the box of this world and, there.
Yeah.
And it made me kind of look, because I totally saw myself going up the ranks at Axiom and everything else, and just kind of doing the 9 to 5 and hating the afternoon on Fridays. Mm-hmm. Right? I always associate
your life.
I always associate like 9 to 5 is really 9 to 5 isn't bad, right? I would love to live a 9 to 5 work life. Be able to go home at 5 o'clock and shut everything off. I'd love that idea.
Yeah.
All right, so I was enamored with that idea, but I'm not enamored with 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock on a Friday.
Yeah.
I'm not, because that was the most miserable 4 hours of your existence in that time period.
Yeah, and salespeople don't work 1 to 5 on Fridays.
No, they don't.
No,
they really don't. And
not
so,
the good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that 1 to 4 spot or 1 to 5 spot has completely changed my life, because I know for a fact I'm not going to work in those periods. And so, anytime I ever looked, I fired myself and I'd look at other jobs like, oh, they want me there from like 1 to 5 on a Friday. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to work.
That's funny.
I mean, I had no problem doing 5 hours on a Saturday morning to make up for the 4 hours.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
I have no problem doing that,
Yeah.
No problem.
But you need a little freedom.
But I'm not working at 1 o'clock on a Friday,
Not in San Diego, for sure.
No.
The cold calling thing kind of reminds me. It makes me think back to my buddy's mom got me a job at Olin Mill. She was managing.
Ooh,
and so I was doing the telemarketing thing. and I was bored out of my gourd. Like it was like to the point where I was just doing voices, talking to people, right? Like I'm just like, you know,
That's
they
pretty
don't know
cool,
who I
though.
am. Like,
I actually like that.
that was the best I could do.
It's Elmer Fudd calling.
Oh man, I had a country accent, I had all kind of things. But you know what? The day I quit, there was a lady. She said, you know, my husband just died, and do we owe you money? I'm trying to figure out all the bills, and people just keep calling me, and I'm like, I got it. I'm done with this. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I gotta find a different route. No, I gotta find a different route.
Hearing you in a country voice, all I think is Old Town Road right now. I'm sorry.
It was kind of like that. It was basically that. It was
Can we
basically
hear a little bit?
No.
Lil Nas, let's go. Lil Nas.
Come
Lil
on.
Nas.
Yeah, I mean, you put yourself out there. I want to hear it.
It's a bump set. I'm gonna roll with that one. You know.
Yeah.
My memory's not that good. I'm getting old.
Oh,
I'm getting old.
He'll
I am
practice.
not.
He'll practice for next time.
I am not getting.
You remember your
re-invited.
favorite?
I know. I'm the one who asked for it. So.
You remember your favorite job earlier?
My favorite job, boy, man. You know, I'll tell you what. It was a real. I was a hawker at Jack Murphy Stadium at that time. So I was in high school. I was a sport nut, and so I could go to the Charger games, and I would work my ass off in the first part of the game.
You walked the stairs?
I'd walk the parking lot,
Okay.
because nobody else would.
I did the stairs.
And then you were a hawker too?
yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know that. And so, and then in the Padre game. So, and back then the Padres, we had a legit team that was a San Diego
Tony
curse,
Gwynn.
right?
Oh,
We had Tony Gwynn, Clark, like we were good. And so I'd work real hard, and then I'd go find a spot in the outfield during baseball or at View during football, and I would watch. And you know, I'd make like $450 a game, something like that.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and as a kid, that's real money. I mean,
sure.
and that hustle, like I'm gonna always out hustle somebody else type of mentality.
Yeah.
is kind of so I thought that was one of my favorite jobs. Although being an insecure high school kid, every now and then I'd see somebody I went to high school with, and for whatever reason I was a little embarrassed, right? Like I was selling souvenirs at the stadium, but ultimately that was a really cool early job. I sold jewelry for Zales. That was interesting, and then I had to do cold calls for a medical center for people who got hurt at work. One of my first jobs in college. That was also a good job. Got a good responsibility and stuff, But I think hawking, if I had to, I'd say like hawking souvenirs, be able to watch my
Hey, you
teams
stay
play.
healthy. You're out. I mean, I was doing the stairs like nobody's business.
I did
man.
stairs too.
Yeah.
I did it all. I go to the lounge. You know, people spend time in the cheap seats. I'm like, yeah, they're not buying anything. That doesn't make any sense. Like being smart too. Like figure out where the people are buying. But yeah.
What about your favorite job, y'all?
You know, I reflect back to probably some of the happy periods. I remember I was delivering pizzas at Domino's Pizza, and I remember something about delivering pizzas like on a Sunday night, just listening to music, got your buddies or something like that will ride shotgun with you while you're delivering pizzas. And,
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You're not supposed to have your buddies with
Yeah.
you, right?
okay, you know, I worked my way up to a manager fairly quickly in that organization, and I was able to rewrite the rules. And so, you get your buddies with you, you're listening to music, just kind of driving around, dropping off pizzas. I think it was a carefree part of that.
Yeah.
You know, my wife and I talk about that all the time, about how rad it is of no responsibility. Like, you just need to make enough money to be able to pay for your booze that night.
Interesting. Yeah.
You know, that's all that was your responsibility. It was like, all right, I just need to make enough to be able to go out tonight. And
Wasn't the mortgage,
no mortgage,
the water trash.
none of that.
Yeah, the Baja fisherman parable makes me think about that story, right? Like how much money you need to make to live the life you want to live. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
I won't go into
That's
that.
awesome.
That's a whole other parable. That I won't take over your podcast.
No, I like that.
I want to
Yeah.
live. I would live in a hut on the beach in like San Felipe, so I don't think I need a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if you haven't read that parable, that's something to Google.
Yeah.
Because it's like how much money you need to make to live the life you want to live, right?
Right.
It's about I'll give you the Reader's Digest. I'll go quick.
Do it.
For the young people. I won't bore you.
Explain what Reader's Digest
Yeah, that's
is.
right. That's what I mean. The young people are, what the hell is this old dude talking about? No.
Is it Audible?
Is that something you read but hold in your hand? I have no idea what that is.
Reader's Digest, digestive system.
Yeah, it's
You
like-
read it on the toilet.
I take probiotics. I'll be
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. So funny, so funny. I'll tell the story as quick as I can. I won't bore you too much, but it's a story about this American couple that goes down to Baja on vacation, and the guy says, "Hey, I want to go fishing for the day," and they find this guy in a Mexican village and says, "I want to go fishing for the day. What would you charge me to take you?" I don't know. No one's ever asked me that, but I'll take you out for $100 a day. He says, "Okay, well that's cool. Let's go out." So they go out, they catch a bunch of fish, and they come back and. The fisherman says, "Hey, thanks for coming out." He says, "You know what? I'd like to do this again tomorrow. I'll give you another $100 tomorrow." And the guy says, "Oh, okay, that's cool. You can join me." He says, "You know, if you would tell people at the hotel like that you do this, you can make an extra $100 every single day." And the guy says, "Okay, well then what do you do?" He says, "Well, you know, you get a couple people and you tell them to get their own boat, and they can make an extra $100, and you can take a piece of all that." And he says, "Okay, then what will I do?" He says, "Well, after 10, 15 years, you get like 30 people doing this and you're getting a piece of all that." He says, "Then what will I do?" He says, "Well, do that for like 15, 30 years. Maybe you get a whole fishing fleet and you get like a big boat and you make all this money doing this." And he says, "Okay, then what will I do?" He says, "Well, you can open a fishery and you ship your fish all over the world." He says, "Okay, that's cool. Then what will I do?" He says, "Well, after 30, 40 years doing this, you could just retire and you can just fish when you want
like
to."
how you are
and
now.
he says, "Well, that's what I do now."
I love it.
So I totally butchered the story, but that's the high level of it. Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
My favorite job was serving tables.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, because, well, first of all, it gave me all that interpersonal activity.
Did you just tell people what they're going to have? I can just see Zeke. No, you're not going to get that.
Nah,
I can see that with Zeke.
give them a little charm.
Yeah.
No, my specialty, I'll tell you, my specialty was first dates and anybody with kids. Because if you keep the kids cool,
Yeah.
they tip you well.
Right.
And if you make her happy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the couple's having a good time,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So, but yeah, I worked at the old spaghetti factory. 200,
the old
$250
school.
a night. Oh man, cash in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
You take the checks, you just put those,
Of course.
stack those somewhere.
Of course, you reported the
You know what I'm
IRS.
saying?
Part of it. I
Of course,
understand, yeah.
of course. But like you said, though, you just, what to buy that tequila that night
Yeah,
or whatever
yeah.
it was that you wanted to do. You had the money to do that. You had the cash in your hand. You go out with your friends or whatever, and then you go back the next day. So that was my thing. And I did that while I was on the air, right? So I had the radio station like later that night or, sometime that week. And it was just that freedom. You know what I'm
Carefree,
saying?
yeah.
That was good freedom. Now, you guys both have radio experience though too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, the radio show?
I've been on radio shows. I've never had a radio show. Marc
Okay.
Gallo has, so go ahead,
Yeah.
Gallo.
What, 8 years?
8 years on the air?
That was 8 years.
Awesome, man. When I first met you, I think you had
Yeah.
the show. You never invited me though. I don't think you liked my
Stop
voice.
your noise. You
Yeah,
were
like
on
my
there.
voice.
Did you like your voice?
He never invited me on his
You
show.
were on there at least twice.
I was never.
Yes,
on
you
his
were.
show. Listen,
Yes, you were. Yeah, he
We're gonna have to
was.
look this up.
Yeah, I know he was.
Don't
Because
be
that's when I
lying.
learned that you. What was
The
your
great beard
Wait
is-
a minute. You had a radio. You had a name. What was the?
Oh, no, don't do it.
Yeah. What was yeah? Because and this is the reason I know because he came on and that's when I learned that he did radio. What was your handle?
Silk Daddy.
There it is.
Oh my God!
There it is. Yes, that's how I know. That's how I know I had you on.
That was my name.
Yeah.
You told me that. I've heard that
Okay,
before.
that's
So
crazy.
so I stand defended on that one.
I don't think I was.
He has proof.
The defense rests.
If I'm judging, I think you're on a show.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
The defense rests.
I was
Your Honor.
not on the
You
show.
were.
But we did talk about
by
that
the
around
by
the
the
Good
way,
Boys
by the
thing.
way, I was
Yeah.
just so
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
awesome, though, man. And I appreciate you guys being here. Listen, your first business idea, like at some point, like you had to step out and just be like, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do my thing.
Yep.
Like when I was 17 years old, I graduated high school when I was 16. Wait a minute.
You graduated high school when you're
There
16?
you go. That's what I wanted.
Oh shoot! Oh my God! by the way, Zeke, it doesn't surprise me at all.
That's funny. That's funny. I appreciate that. But so after I graduated high school, I got into
16.
radio and everything. Yeah. And I was
GED.
over at. I don't know her. San Jose State. I was over there on the radio, right? And I just was trying to figure out like what's going to be my next move.
Right.
And I got with my father and some other guys from Silicon Graphics up in Stanford, and we put together what we call Cybertize Business Systems. And what we were doing was actually publishing music playlists on websites. We were just doing a whole lot of DJ type stuff on the internet way before, as web pages were just getting developed and as the internet was just getting started. We were putting music videos out there. We were putting playlists, a whole lot of things. So that was Cybertize, and nobody else was doing it. So I actually traveled across country, Atlanta, Florida. I actually...
Like 17, 18 years old you're doing this?
17.
Always hustling.
And was pitching to various record labels who were loving it. Now, of course, they're looking at a 17-year-old and they stole my idea. I'll make that clear. The music business stole my ideas. But that was the first time I actually had a business and was really trying to get something big going. I had a great idea going and you know, it just never came to fruition. That said, that didn't stop me from, you know, continuing on and trying to create new businesses. But I'm just interested in hearing what you guys did for, you know, your first businesses.
My very first business. I mean, God, I've had so many. Like, it's hard to know which one I'd call for it. So in high school, people would ask for money, and I'd let them borrow it and make them pay me back more.
Loan sharking.
So there was that.
Oh, okay.
And so, but when I got a little bit older,
There's no illegal substances involved or anything.
Hey, listen.
I occasionally let them do bets on the side.
Yeah, you know, you don't pay me back. No.
Nino LaRussa shows up.
Yeah, Nino, no neck Nino. God, we went to high school. It's so funny. This poor everybody listening to this has no idea what you're talking about. But no, so I started a company really creative called Wilson Enterprises, right? And we sold computer hardware. So my brother and I started that company early on, and we got a supplier like lined up, and we were selling computers. Like we were selling, towers all over the place.
Okay.
And we weren't making a lot of money, but it was something we learned from. And then we put together a company, my brother and I also did. And I can't remember the name. I was trying to remember the name when you brought this up, but essentially it was an online grocery store. So we had...
That'll never happen.
That will never work, right? Never work. This is in like 1990.
Maybe in a pandemic, but there's never going to be a
What are they
pandemic.
going to deliver to your door?
Right. Yeah, no, so the web was blowing up, right? This was like 1993-ish, 92-ish.
Okay. It's around the same time.
And they brought me in because I was pretty good from a financial perspective on a lot of, like, even early on in my life. I just, numbers spoke to me. And
Just giving clues, you hear?
No.
You should talk to somebody about that.
I know. No, but so we put together a business plan. We built a wireframe for how this website was going to work. We had hired developers to build out this whole website where you could order your groceries online. They'd be delivered. But the infrastructure wasn't ready for it really at that time.
Infrastructure at this age?
Yeah, it just wasn't ready because
Okay.
we had to figure out how to get the inventory from the grocery stores onto a website, right? Mm-hmm. And then we had to figure out how to get the website in front of the customer. And so we knew there was a demand, like there was a problem, right? People hate going to a grocery store. We knew that was a problem. Mm-hmm. we knew that people would be willing to pay for it. So our original idea was like you order online, somebody goes to the grocery store, you have like a shopper that puts that together, and then it would deliver it to your house. I mean, we were not Amazon, nor did we ever envision what Amazon could be.
Sure.
But I think we saw that problem early on, and it was just too big for us to solve at that time.
Get it.
And so we both, my brother and I, put a little bit of money and a lot of effort into that. Nothing came out of that, but I'm constantly looking for problems to solve. I mean, that entrepreneurial spirit.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's just
That's important.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
How about you, Gallo?
I started the World Wide Web.
yeah.
No.
Al Gore's in house later.
Yeah. Drop the mic. Al Gore.
Yeah, I'm Al Gore now.
Yeah.
No, I had gotten involved with a multi-level marketing group.
Okay.
It's like a pyramid. It's not a pyramid.
Don't be at the bottom. Don't be at the bottom. I had gotten involved with a auto detailing product that basically didn't use water to wash cars.
I remember those.
Yeah, and so that was a big rave back in mid '90s. And I was like trying to hawk the product, and no one bought into it. So then I'm like, well, what if I show you? And then I'd clean people's car, and they're like, oh, this is fantastic. Yeah, I'll buy it. But I'm like, wait a minute, I just washed somebody's car for basically what I made is like $10. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, wait a minute. So I started detailing cars, and then ultimately would build a business. I built a business around washing cars with that product. That allowed me a lot quicker turnaround on cleaning cars. And then I went to like Coronado, to where they had restrictions on washing your car in the driveway in Coronado at the time. I don't know. Do they still have that?
Some places.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So
no, because a guy comes and cleans my car.
Yeah. So at one point in time, they had restrictions where you couldn't use water wash in your driveway. So I was just marketing to those folks, and then going out and cleaning cars, and then I got into the competition car stereo markets, and I was going through college, and I did that, and I realized I really didn't like doing it. I had one guy in particular, I remember him distinctly, that I was just starting in this business that I'm in now, and I was still hustling, pushing paint on the side. And I remember he was a realtor, and I remember I cleaned his car, and he had parked underneath an olive tree, and the olive tree had just decimated his white paint. Mm-hmm. And I had spent probably 4 hours on this car cleaning it. And I gave it back to him. I did the best I could. And he looked at it, he goes, yeah, it's not good enough. And I'm like, man.
4 more hours.
So I spent, I got back on it. I got back on it, and I was cleaning it some more, this and that. And I think I probably spent another 2 or 3 hours on it. And I think I'd made like $150 on the car, on the detail. And I gave him the car back, and he goes, so if you'd have spent 7 hours doing what you do now, would you have made more money? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, I'm assuming I'm not going to see you ever again.
Yeah.
And that was such a, Paul Hahn, he's a realtor in East County.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And I remember, and I didn't clean another car for $1.
That's
and I still remember this to this day. And that guy kind of motivated me to kind of just like, all right, dude, understand what your time's worth. And if you go and pick up the phone for 7 hours at air conditioning, it's going to be way better than pushing paint in 100-degree weather.
I like that. Both of you guys are good lessons that came out of the businesses, right? So Wilson's was infrastructure, right? You got to have what's necessary in order for, to deliver to the client. If you don't have it, don't try to push a product that you don't have anything you can back that up.
You need to
right?
meet with the World Wide Web.
I know. Yeah.
And then Gallo was the value of the time.
Yeah.
And I like that. That's very important,
Yeah.
right? I mean, all of us, our time is valuable. And again, we appreciate you spending.
But I mean, I felt like I had $150 in my pocket. I'm like, okay, cool. I can still go out and do friends.
Sure. But you did lose some time.
But I lost money. But in the scheme of things, I lost money. Mm-hmm. And he made that very clear. Paul was it was funny. He was very poignant about it. He's like, I expected probably to see you. And I'd clean that guy's car for probably 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it wasn't like he was firing me.
Still was cold when he said it.
It was cold.
When he said it wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
It's not good enough. top of your tree.
Yeah.
Like you could have spent less time cutting
Yeah.
down that tree.
Yeah, and by the way, you parked in the wrong spot.
Time to reveal, guys. Let's do the reveal. Marc Gallo is the managing partner of Fides Wealth. We all need someone on the outside looking in. For some, that's a psychologist. For others, it's a personal trainer. But many take for granted that you need the same person for your finances. You have checks coming in, bills to be paid, ideas of what you need to spend that money on, but you don't have a Gallo. Because if you did, you'd have a plan. Marc Gallo, Fides Wealth, our financial planner.
I like this guy. I like
Yeah.
the way
I mean, man, that's
I
good.
didn't even set that up.
I
That's
know.
kind of nice.
Now that's for you. I wrote that just for you.
I like it.
Mark Wilson, another financial genius, is managing partner of the premier CPA firm in Southern California. In 2017, listed as one of the fastest growing private companies in America's 5,000 list. 2016, San Diego Business Journal listed his firm, CWDL CPAs, a top 100 fastest growing privately held companies. Mark had a vision, and this partnership was the result. Let's talk about that vision.